Welcome to the second webinar in the 2025 Earth Science Week webinar series celebrating the theme Energy Resources for Our Future. Today's webinar is sponsored by Geothermal Rising and will feature 4 presentations on geothermal energy.
Hello and welcome everyone to Geothermal Rising's presentation, Geothermal, the energy resource of our past, present, and future. My name is Vanessa Robertson and I'm the Director of Policy and Education at Geothermal Rising. And with me today are my colleagues Amarise Khan, our Earth Energy Fellow, Anina Peterson, our Director of Science and External Affairs, Amelia Letvin, State and Local Community Engagement Manager, and Jessica Eagle Bluestone, our Tribal Community Engagement Manager. Over the next hour, we'll be diving into the incredible world of geothermal by sharing a little bit about geothermal rising, what geothermal energy is, how it's used, and the technology that makes it possible. We will also address some misconceptions and challenges, and then review potential jobs in this growing industry. I'll then wrap up with ways to get involved with geothermal rising and some resources if you want to dive deeper, because you certainly can. So, a little bit about Geothermal Rising. Our organization has been around a while, over 50 years. We've had a name change, grown our team and scope, and we have members, though, that have been with us since the beginning, or pretty close to it. As a 501c3, we have a very clear focus, geothermal. Support it, celebrate it, and grow it. We see ourselves at this nexus of industry, academia, government, and the public. It's all about making and fostering relationships to grow the industry. And we help grow the industry through education, research, networking, and advocacy at the local, state, federal, and tribal level. Our mission at Geothermal Rising is to connect the geothermal community and champion geothermal energy in the United States and around the world, with a vision of a brighter future for Earth and all of its inhabitants, powered by the planet itself. So next, I'm excited to pass it over to Amarise to give you all a little overview of geothermal and its benefits.
Thank you, Vanessa. Let's start with the basics. What is geothermal energy? Geothermal energy is the Earth's natural heat. It's stored beneath the surface and can be harnessed to generate electricity, as well as provide heating and cooling for buildings. One of the best things about geothermal energy is that it's both reliable and renewable. It provides constant power day and night, all year round. It's also incredibly versatile. We can use it to heat and cool homes, commercial spaces, and even in industrial processes and power generation. Geothermal energy is a sustainable option that cuts carbon emissions and reduces our reliance on fossil fuels. So where does the Earth heat come from? Geothermal energy comes from the Earth's natural heat, which is mostly stored in the mantle just beneath the crust. The Earth's core is hot, about the same temperature as the surface of the Sun. Sometimes heat energy escapes to the surface in dramatic volcanic eruptions or earthquakes. But that also means our planet is a giant heat engine. It's constantly circulating heat or geothermal energy that can help us do work. In fact, there are 50,000 times more geothermal energy in the Earth's crust than all of the world's oil and gas combined. Geothermal energy is everywhere below us as steam, hot water, and hot rock, from shallow ground to deep wells drilled down thousands of feet. How does the heat from below reach the surface? Heat is generated deep inside the Earth, in the core and mantle, and moves upwards through rock layers. It travels in two ways, by conduction through solid rock and by convection in hot moving fluids. In certain areas, this heat builds up close to the surface, and we can tap into it by drilling wells and capturing it for energy use. We can use this geothermal heat directly for heating or converting it into electricity by producing steam that powers turbines. Since geothermal energy comes from deep underground, it provides long-term, low-emission power that is naturally replenished and available almost everywhere. It delivers a constant energy 24/7, no matter the time of day or weather, making it a stable foundation for a clean energy grid. Geothermal energy is also adaptable. It can generate electricity, heat and cool homes and buildings, and even support industrial processes, whether it's a small system, such as a home, or a large geothermal power plant. It offers flexible solutions for many different energy needs. Next, I'll pass it over to Jessica to share a bit more about historical and cultural applications of geothermal energy.
Thank you, Emerise. Hi, I'm Jessica Eagle Bluestone. In the next few minutes, we'll connect a very old human relationship, using Earth's heat, to how heat resources are utilized today. Hot springs have supported bathing, healing, and community for thousands of years. In the 1800s, we started to systematically study heat resources. By 1904, in Larderello, Italy, the first geothermal electricity was generated. Through the 20th century, plants spread to the United States, Iceland, Japan, and the Philippines. Today, geothermal quietly provides steady heat and power, local, predictable, and far more versatile than most people realize. In the Andes and across indigenous North America, geothermal sites are both pragmatic resources and sacred spaces, used for health, ceremony, and sometimes diplomacy. You see similar reverence in New Zealand, India, and China. This isn't a tech fad, it's a long-recorded human relationship with the Earth's heat. Civilizations organized around it. Romans built social and medical infrastructure around baths. Japanese onsen culture blends wellness and community. In Mesoamerica and the Andes, heat and minerals shaped agriculture and ritual. When accessible heat shows up, everyday life changes. The oldest known thermal energy network in Chausseg, France, piped hot spring water to homes in the 1300s. Medieval Europe had dozens of spa towns, and indigenous oral histories across North America honor springs as places of healing and peace. Modern projects are the next chapter, not a new story. Geothermal technologies utilize a broad spectrum of the Earth's heat. High-temperature resources power hydrothermal plants, engineered geothermal systems, binary systems, and advanced closed-loop concepts, all great for firm electricity and industrial heat. Low to mid-temperature resources support thermal energy networks and ground-source heat pumps for space heating and cooling almost anywhere, in addition to direct-use applications like greenhouses or aquaculture. Let's watch a short DOE video on ground-source heat pumps.
We all want to save money heating and cooling our house or office, right? The answer may be under your feet, literally. Much of the heating and cooling can come from the ground, below the surface, with something called a geothermal heat pump. You see, below the frost line, about 10 feet down, the Earth maintains a nearly constant temperature of 54 degrees. We can tap into this energy to provide heating in the winter and cooling in the summer. Okay, now here's how it works. Bury a loop of pipes, called a heat exchanger, just below the surface, and fill them with water or a water and antifreeze solution. During the winter months, the air is usually cooler than the temperature below ground. The solution circulates in a loop underground and absorbs the Earth's heat. This heat is brought to the surface and transferred to a heat pump. The heat pump warms the air, and then your regular heating system warms the air some more to a comfortable temperature. Finally, ducts circulate the air to the various rooms. Now, a huge benefit is that the geothermal system doesn't have to work as hard to make people inside comfortably warm, and you save lots of money on your heating bill. In the summertime, the system works in reverse. When it's hot outside, the temperature below the surface is cooler than the summer heat. So the fluid in the loop absorbs heat in the building and sends it underground. The ground's lower temperature cools it, and it's circulated again and again. Now you're saving money on air conditioning. Now, this church uses a large geothermal heat pump to heat and cool the building. It has a very big parking lot, which lets it spread out its loop horizontally. But if you don't have all that space, you can go straight down and use a vertical loop system instead. Geothermal heat pumps can be used just about anywhere in the U.S. because all areas have nearly constant shallow ground temperatures, although systems in different locations will have varying degrees of efficiency and cost savings. The constant temperature of the Earth just below our feet is a sustainable resource, literally in our own backyard. It's a clean energy source ready for us to use to heat and cool our homes and buildings while lowering our utility bills.
A few key takeaways. The ground temperature stays relatively steady year-round. Loops can be horizontal or vertical, and the same system runs in reverse for cooling. That steadiness is why this technology works in so many places. Because heat pumps move heat rather than make it, they deliver high efficiency. Thermal energy networks also utilize low to mid-temperature geothermal resources. The Geothermal District Heating and Cooling 101 infographic gives an idea of what a generalized thermal energy network looks like. Fluid is circulated through tubing buried in the ground or underwater and pumped into the energy station. Inside the energy station, the heat from this fluid is transferred using heat pumps or heat exchangers to heat municipal water. The water is then piped through the network to provide heating and cooling. In the winter, the energy station pumps hot water through the pipes to heat buildings along the network, and the cooled water returns to the energy station for reheating. In the summer, the energy station pumps cold water through the pipes to provide cooling, and the warmed water returns to the energy station to be cooled. Practically speaking, geothermal heating and cooling through thermal energy networks and building-scale ground source heat pumps provide stable operating costs. Here we see a few additional low-temperature applications. Food processing, drying, washing, and pasteurization can be completed using predictable low-grade heat. Greenhousing, growing seasons can be extended with stabilized temperatures, which can in turn improve food security. Aquaculture, controlled warm water, boosts yields for species like tilapia or trout. Spas and wellness, from traditional bathing to modern tourism, combining cultural value with local revenue. These applications provide clear examples of heat transfer, systems thinking, and community benefits. To recap, geothermal is continuity, from sacred springs to modern systems. Today, it appears as firm power where resources allow, and as heating and cooling, almost everywhere, thanks to heat pumps and thermal energy networks. Next up is technology and innovation with Anina.
Thank you so much, Jessica. So just as a quick recap, right? Jessica did a great job of going over the technology and the uses for low and mid-temperature geothermal resources, such as heating and cooling and direct use. Next, we're going to shift our attention into the high temperature side of the geothermal thermostat. And here we're talking about resources that are greater than about 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to take a look at all of the different types of geothermal systems and how we make power from geothermal temperatures in this range. So first, let's talk about the surface equipment. So We know that heat comes from the earth, but once we get it out of the earth, how do we actually make power with it? So there are three main power plant types that are used in geothermal power production. The first is the dry steam power plant. And what this does is it uses the naturally occurring steam that's within the geothermal reservoir, the naturally occurring geothermal reservoir, just pumps that steam up to the surface, and the steam is what turns the turbine, and cranks the generator, and produces power. Really straightforward and simple. Um, this is why the dry steam power plant is the oldest technology used for creating geothermal power. It's been used since the early 1900s, but it is still in use today. For example, in the world's largest geothermal field, the geysers, which is in Northern California, that still uses dry steam turbines. Now, the next type of power plant is the flash steam power plant. So that is also utilizing the naturally occurring fluids within the geothermal reservoir, but it's taking advantage of the phase change that happens with the pressure change coming from depth to surface. So there's a depressurizing tank at the surface that takes the liquid that's coming from the hot pressurized reservoir, lets it flash to steam, and then the steam turns that turbine, just as it does in the dry steam power plant. Now, the third type is the binary cycle power plant. This is a type of technology that is really being used more and more. And that's partly because that this technology, the turbine can be used on a wider range of temperatures. So geothermal power can be produced from lower temperatures than what are required for the flash and the dry steam. So how the binary cycle power plant is different is that it uses a working fluid. So you can see highlighted here in the graphic, the fluids that are being heated by the reservoir don't actually ever interact with the part of the turbine that's spinning to produce power. Instead, it heats up a working fluid that has a lower boiling point than the water produced through the geothermal reservoir. And that working fluid is what flashes to gas to turn that turbine. So really versatile applications and ways that we've been able to harness and utilize the Earth's natural heat to create power. So that was at the surface. Now, how about at the subsurface? I alluded to there are lots of different types of geothermal systems. Now, you'll hear kind of two buckets. There's the conventional and next generation geothermal. Let's talk about conventional first. So conventional geothermal systems are naturally occurring kind of Goldilocks geologic situations where you have hot rock that's kind of close to the surface. And within that hot rock, you have a lot of space. Like you have fractures, or you have a pore space in between kind of the bits of the rock. That's the reservoir, as we call it. And within that reservoir, you also have naturally occurring fluids. So you have naturally occurring water that's sitting in that hot space in between the rocks of the reservoir. And that's what all comes together to create a natural hydrothermal system. Those resources are fantastic. I'm going to show you a little bit more about them in the next slide. But first, let's touch on what the next generation, if you hear that next generation geothermal system, what that means. That means it's not a naturally occurring system. That means that not all three of those components that go into the natural system are present. Instead, the heat is present, and then we have found ways to engineer and science and technology our way into extracting the heat when the transfer mechanism, the fluid within the reservoir, isn't naturally occurring. So there are advanced geothermal systems and enhanced geothermal systems, or also sometimes called engineered geothermal systems. So the difference between these two is that in EGS systems, enhanced or engineered, you're actually creating a reservoir. So you're creating that space within the rock for fluid to flow through. In advanced geothermal systems, you are not creating a reservoir per se, you are creating an underground radiator through a series of engineering through pipe work so that you can extract the heat without ever really touching the rock with any fluid. I'll just briefly touch on the super hot rock system. That's really the next generation. There are a lot of technological challenges that come with dealing with temperatures above 400 degrees C. But if and when we are capable of utilizing those temperatures, it will be a true game changer for how we produce and utilize power on this planet. So let's talk about the hydrothermal again. So hydrothermal, those naturally occurring Goldilocks zone systems, and you might not have heard about them, but did you know that the US is actually the largest country, the largest producer of geothermal power by country in the world? So we produce 4 megawatts of geothermal power from 7 states. And that's enough to power about 3 million homes. While that's great, it's still only about 0.4% of the US's electricity demand. But what's really cool is that we know there are more of these hydrothermal systems out there. Scientists estimate that there's over 9,000 megawatts available of hydrothermal resources. And further, scientists estimate that there could be over 30,000 megawatts of undiscovered, yet to be discovered hydrothermal systems existing in the US today, just waiting for us to find and to create clean, renewable, always-on power from. So next, let's talk about EGS. So here's a quick video to give you a better visualization of what engineering that reservoir means. So one well is drilled, fractures are created from that well. A second well is drilled intersecting those fractures. Those fractures are then enlarged, and then cold water is injected through one so that they pass through all those fractures we just made, and then is produced to the surface. So I hope that helps kind of illustrate in your mind a little bit better how EGS reservoirs are done. And there's some nuance, and different companies do things slightly differently, but this is the gist of it there. So EGS, I know we call it next generation, but really it's a now technology. There are companies that have commercial projects that have signed PPAs with huge off-takers, power users like Meta and Google and utilities in Texas and in California and New Mexico. So there are commercial projects underway in Nevada and Utah and in Texas. So when I talk about the potential of EGS, remember there were thousands of megawatts of hydrothermal potential. But when you start not having to rely on the natural coexistence of fluids, temperature, and permeability, if you can create and engineer the permeability and the fluids, then the potential for geothermal power production in the US grows exponentially. Scientists out of Stanford estimate that the total potential for engineered geothermal system power production in the US is almost 36,000 gigawatts. So that's gigawatts, not even megawatts. That is plenty to power all of the US's electricity demands and more. So really exciting technology. So the next generation geothermal system to talk about is the AGS. So that is where you also only need hot rocks, but instead of creating a reservoir, you're creating an underground radiator, self-contained within a borehole or multiple boreholes. So like I said, you can do it with one where you have a coaxial kind of borehole where cold fluid is injected down the center. It circulates up through the outside that is closer to that hot rock. heats up and is produced power at the surface. Or you could have a complex, well-designed pathway to create this radiator type of idea, as you can see from the doublet well AGS example. This is also a now technology, not a next generation technology. There are startups that are working on demonstration and commercial projects across the US in California, New Mexico, and Texas. So really exciting to see this technology not only developing, but reaching commercial scalability as well. So don't just take my word for it in terms of geothermal's growth potential. This is a report from the EIA that came out earlier this year. And this is their educated guess, really well educated guess of the market potential for next generation geothermal power and heat through to 2050. So you can see where we are today in 2025. We were barely making the chart. But by 2050, the installed capacity is estimated to be 800 gigawatts worldwide for next generation geothermal power capacity. So this is an industry that is set to scale exponentially. And the way that we're going to be able to do that is by having a very collaborative energy future. It's going to take people and expertise and financing from new places that haven't always been within the geothermal industry. What we're seeing that's really moving the needle now is other energy companies, historically oil and gas companies, are really taking an interest in geothermal and are actively investing and partnering with geothermal startups. Now, this is because geothermal is a natural fit for oil and gas companies that are positioning themselves to be not just oil and gas companies, but energy companies, because they have the capital, they have the workforce, they have the expertise, and they have the supply chain. This is all about drilling wells to recover a resource. However, instead of recovering fossil fuels, you are recovering a renewable, abundant, clean, always on power source that is the Earth's heat. So next, I would love to pass it off to Amelia, who will be going over some of the misconceptions, challenges, and opportunities. Over to you, Amelia.
Thank you so much, Anina. Let's first look at the 5 most common myths about geothermal: that it will run out, that it's harmful to local communities, takes up too much land, causes air pollution, or it will only work in certain places like Iceland or Kenya. In fact, these are all false. And here are the truths. First, the Earth's heat is continuously renewed by its core, making it a truly sustainable energy source. Second, guided by the Department of Energy, standards in geothermal operations ensure safe industry practices. Third, geothermal power plants require up to 90% less land than any other power source. Fourth, modern geothermal facilities produce minimal emissions compared to fossil fuels. And finally, location. While high temperature resources are concentrated in certain regions, when we consider geothermal for heating and cooling, it already exists in every state in the country. I'd like to better illustrate 2 of these facts with these diagrams. The figure on the left shows that geothermal energy requires less space to generate 1 gigawatt of power, making it one of the most space-efficient ways to generate electricity. With many geothermal projects being on federal land, this leaves more open space for wildlife and recreation uses. I also mentioned that geothermal produces low CO2 emissions, some of the lowest among all energy sources. The figure on the right illustrates the little CO2 emitted in the small white cloud compared to the emissions from burning 1 gallon of fuel in your automobile in the dark cloud. As we move on to concerns, we'll address stakeholders as well. A successful geothermal development depends on more than just the quality of the resource. It relies on the people and organizations who make it happen. Every project brings together a range of stakeholders, each with unique priorities, concerns, and expectations. When we talk about stakeholders in a geothermal project, this means local communities, power plant operators, state and federal governments, nature advocates, investors, and many more. We want to center this conversation on the local community, as they are often the most directly affected by geothermal development, making their inclusion central to any project planning and implementation. A successful project must focus on symbiosis with both geothermal resource and local community. Historically, geothermal development has contributed to degradation in some natural hot springs. However, these examples happened many decades ago, when environmental awareness and regulatory protections were less robust. Today, best practices and stronger environmental safeguards help prevent these impacts. Water rights must be respected, as they are vital for local livelihoods, agriculture, and ecosystems. Moving on to environmental concerns, starting with water, geothermal targets a fluid system that is much deeper and chemically independent from the potable water used for human and agricultural uses at the surface. Well designs include properly identifying the local water table and ensuring that it is safely behind multiple layers of steel and cement to restrict any contamination. Some of the new technology in geothermal has the potential to induce seismicity. The geothermal community, led by the Department of Energy, developed a protocol of best practices to safely perform EGS. This system is known as the traffic light protocol and uses the well-known colors green, yellow, red. Green means all clear, yellow means proceed with caution because some seismicity has been detected, and red means pause operations because a seismic event greater than 3 magnitude on the Richter scale was detected. Other environmental concerns, such as visual obstructions and noise disturbances, only occur during the first phase of exploration drilling. Once a plant is fully operational, it is very quiet and innocuous. And finally, some places have mineral dissolved in the geothermal brine that could provide highly sought after rare earth minerals such as lithium. The extraction process would be complex but highly reviewed by state and federal regulators who prioritize environmental safety practices. And there are some benefits to local communities. One of these benefits is a job in a skilled trade with transferable skill set to other energy industries. Geothermal plant operations also provide local revenue streams through land royalties and property tax, which is paid annually. The uses of these funds varies by location, but is always used for local infrastructure and services. Additionally, communities adjacent to geothermal can benefit from direct use applications, such as public pools, greenhouses, snowmelt, or heating and cooling systems. Moving on to the concerns of operators. Operators are faced with a lot of regulatory hurdles, such as just to secure permits to begin the exploration of a project. There are significant regulatory barriers that extend both the timeline and the cost. Addressing these hurdles includes pushing for streamlined permitting, legislative reform, and geothermal-specific policy support, which is essential for moving the industry forward. We're seeing meaningful reforms in real time, things that can move the needle for the industry, such as attractive tax incentives to support geothermal development, categorical exclusions for geothermal exploration, and other de-risking efforts. As we move on, one of the biggest challenges for geothermal development is to attract investors. Return on investment, or ROI, is the payback period of a project, and geothermal can take many years, sometimes up to 20, before significant profits are realized, and this can scare off many investors. On top of that, exploration costs are rising. While we've seen great technology improvements, many of them borrowed from the oil and gas industry, they come with big price tags. Another financial hurdle is that the geothermal projects are front-loaded. Most of this spending occurs early in the project timeline during the exploration phase, years before a single kilowatt of electricity will be produced. Well, now I'm at the end of my slides, and I want to end on this upbeat note. The real price tag for producing electricity is called the LCOE, or levelized cost of energy. This takes into consideration the whole lifetime of the project from cradle to grave. Geothermal projects have the lowest operations and maintenance costs compared to other power sources, which balances out the lifetime expenses. Once a geothermal plant is built and online, the longer it operates, the more economical it becomes. Geothermal is currently cost competitive, and it will continue to become more economical as these technologies are proven. Next, I'll pass it back to Vanessa to discuss some career opportunities in the geothermal sector.
Thank you, Amelia. Now that you've learned more about geothermal and the unique characteristics that make it so incredible, let's take a look at the variety of career opportunities available. No matter where you are in your career journey, there is something for everyone. And our friends at Doers Group are going to give you an overview of all the exciting, innovative, and impactful jobs out there.
Geothermal energy provides opportunities for different career paths. The range extends from the sciences to sales and policy. We'll start with the three major categories and their specific positions for the geothermal industry. The first is physical and earth sciences and engineering. The second, fieldwork and operations. And the third, sales, finance, and policy. Category 1, physical sciences. This includes chemists, geochemists, geologists, geophysicists, hydrologists, and includes the related engineering fields, such as reservoir engineering and chemical engineering. These disciplines all require at least a bachelor's degree in a related science or engineering field. These careers usually deal with research and development for various entities. They can work in academia, industry, or even government institutions like laboratories and departments of research. Physical scientists will focus on the characterization, study, and research of the subsurface formations where geothermal resources are found. The three major scientific branches are geology, geophysics, geochemistry, as well as general chemistry and water studies. These are all vital in theory and in the field. Engineering specializations also deal with subsurface, but provide the bridge from pure science to industry applications, such as power capacity, reservoir efficiency and behavior, and even developing innovative tools and methods for geothermal power production. Category 2, fieldwork and operations. These field positions require a vocational background instead of a formal education through university or something similar. Some of the jobs available are construction worker, designer, an electrician, excavator, machinist, a mechanic, pipe fitter, plumber, welder, and general technician. This category also has available career paths that require more formal education. These jobs include various engineering specialties such as mechanical, electrical, petroleum, structural. Also, there are seismologists, geologists, and geophysicists in this category as well. Category 3, sales, finance, and policy. This is the final of the three major divisions of the industry. Here, you'll find less technical or less scientifically oriented degrees being put to use. Within sales and financing, they focus on jobs such as accounting, attorney, developers, entrepreneurs, financiers, investors, and suppliers. If you're interested in local, state, federal, or even international policy opportunities, then geothermal energy may be the right industry for you. In this category, you could possibly work in environmental, social, or financial policy making, environmental consultation, land leasing, land surveyors, and more. We hope we've been able to recap and give you guys a better idea as to what kind of careers are available in the geothermal energy industry. We're on every continent in the world, in various languages, in various climates. These career paths offer a chance to help the environment, see the world, and have fun while doing both.
Thank you, Dewhurst Group, for allowing us to use that animation video. A career in geothermal offers the chance to be a part of the clean energy movement while working in a stable, secure, and forward-thinking industry. With cutting-edge innovation at its core, geothermal attracts a diverse and inclusive workforce and provides a wide range of career opportunities, from fieldwork to finance, engineering to community engagement, making it an exciting path with something for everyone. There are many pathways into a geothermal career, offering opportunities for every level of education and interest, whether through trade schools and apprenticeships, leading to hands-on roles in field operations and plant work, a four-year college degree in disciplines like engineering, environmental science, or geology, or advanced studies at the master's or PhD level focusing on research, innovation, policy, or leadership. There's a route into geothermal that matches your goals and strengths. As the geothermal industry grows and evolves rapidly, there are exciting opportunities to be among the first and emerging career paths, pioneering roles that will shape the future of the clean energy. That could be in growing next generation fields, supercritical reservoirs, recovering lithium from geothermal brine, or carbon sequestration, or other areas that haven't even been considered. To help you get started, a growing number of schools and training programs around the country now offer pathways into geothermal, and that number is growing every year. So, what do we do at Geothermal Rising? We raise public awareness and support innovation in geothermal by educating and engaging policymakers, providing members access to the world's largest geothermal resource library, sharing emerging insights through publications, and amplifying research and technology that drive the industry forward. So how can you get involved? You can become a member, open to individuals, companies, researchers, and students, with access to exclusive resources and networking. You can engage by joining our conferences, workshops, and webinars, and stay connected through our updates. You can also volunteer and advocate by supporting the Geothermal Rising Conference and promoting policies that advocate for clean, secure, domestic energy powered by the earth. Our conferences and networking connect industry through events that educate, engage, and build community. Our annual conference brings together over 1,000 attendees for technical sessions, networking, and exhibitions, while our monthly webinars and workshops reach hundreds across the sector. These events welcome everyone from policymakers to academics and industry leaders, and we're excited to host our next Geothermal Rising conference on October 26th to the 29th in Reno, Nevada. So come on over and join us. Our regional interest groups are local hubs that expand geothermal awareness, advocacy, and innovation. They engage communities and policymakers, highlight regional opportunities and technologies, advance supportive policies, and grow the geothermal community by connecting professionals, students, and advocates at the local level. So take a look online and see if there's one in your area. Lastly, Geothermal Rising student sections empower the next generation of geothermal leaders by providing professional development through mentorship, workshops, and research awards, fostering community leadership with volunteer roles and board representation, and offering exclusive resources like scholarships, travel grants, and networking. With 9 student sections worldwide and more being established each year, we're building a strong pipeline for the industry's future. Here are some resources for further information about geothermal. As we wrap up, we want to thank all our individual members and all of our organizational members that continue to inspire, innovate, and steer all of us at Geothermal Rising towards our mission of championing geothermal energy around the world. Thank you. And thank you all for listening and learning with us today. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you so much for attending today's presentations. A special thank you to Geothermal Rising for sponsoring today's webinar. Should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at info@earthsciweek.org. And please be sure to join us for the remaining webinars in this series. Tomorrow's webinar, Shaping the Future of Energy Exploration with Geoscience and Innovation, will take a look at a range of energy resources. And on Thursday, we will look at geologic mapping and modeling. We look forward to seeing you there.